On today's show, I am joined by my friend Ben Pfeifer to discuss the NBA draft in two-part fashion. This is part one, and it's coming to you right now.
You are Locked On Hawks, your daily Atlanta Hawks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello, friends. Welcome to episode 1672 of the Locked On Hawks podcast. I am your host, Brad Rowland, coming to you on a Tuesday here in mid-March. And today's show is brought to you by the folks at Nissan. Take the Nissan Rogue, Nissan Pathfinder, or Nissan Armada, and go to find your next big adventure. Check them out today at nissanusa.com. Also, I should tell you at the top of the podcast to make us your first listen each and every day here at Locked On Hawks. Check us out, subscribe anywhere you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, etc., and plenty of content. In recent days, unfortunately, I had to do an emergency podcast on Monday afternoon with the news breaking that Saddiq Bey tore his ACL. The Hawks then later confirmed and announced that on their own. Still TBD on his surgery, but that was the big news from Sunday, unfortunately. Also did a full breakdown of the Hawks losing at home to the Pelicans on Sunday evening. So it's been a busy stretch for me, and that's all available in the archive. But today, I'm going to focus on the NBA draft a little bit. In between games for the Hawks, kind of a 2.5 day break, and it was a good time to kind of get into the mix here, being that it is March and there's conference tournaments going on this week, and then of course the NCAA tournament next week. So I'm bringing on my friend Ben Pfeifer, who's been on this podcast many times before talking about the NBA draft. It's actually a two-parter. This is part one that you are about to listen to, and without any further delay, here's myself and Ben talking NBA draft. I am joined now by my friend Ben Pfeifer, regular NBA draft-based guest on this program. Ben, how's it going, man?
I'm doing well, Brad. What is this, like year 6 or something?
Something like that, and we're talking in March. I'm probably gonna have to beg you to come back on later.
You never have to beg. I'm always like, sure.
Yeah, I mean it's the time of year. I mentioned it before I brought you in, but a lot of the top guys in this class are not playing college basketball, so that makes it a little bit challenging. But still, you know as well as I do, a lot of people want to talk. Always want to kind of maybe dive in for the first time during conference tournaments and then in the NCAA tournament and kind of see at least the college guys who are going to be on TV.
March Madness for sure.
So it's a good time to kind of do that. And you're always watching, guys. So I know you're more schooled than I am on this class. I was just telling you before we started recording that I'm getting my bearings a little bit on this group, but a long way to go. I'm pacing myself in the middle of covering the Hawks and everything else because there's a lot to get to here.
For sure.
So I guess we can start, wherever you want to, but I'll ask the obligatory question first that I've asked. I've only done, I think, 2 draft or focused podcasts so far in the last couple months. I'll frame it this way. Is this draft as bad as everybody thinks it is?
I think so. I feel like I've been one of the foremost people for a long time pushing this narrative, so I feel like I have to kind of defend it. But then I feel like with some of the guys at number 1 I've been seeing, I'm like, maybe it's going a little too far in like the terrible direction, because I'm like, it's not this bad. But overall, I would say yes. There isn't a real like blue chip number 1 prospects at the top like we've had in past years. I would say even like the top prospects of like the 2020 draft were better than this draft. And I think that's honestly kind of fun as well, because we're liable for some crazy shit to happen on draft night where like this could be the first year, I guess. I mean, 2018 kind of since 2013 where there's like a totally crazy out of left field number 1 pick. But yeah, I think the thing that people say about this draft is like, oh, the depth is really good, which I definitely don't agree with. I think this draft falls off pretty hard after like 2025-ish for me. And this is of course like players will return, and there are some players who like I include on my board because I like them, but they have no chance of, like draft sickos like them. Like Solomon Washington is a wing who plays for Texas A&M, who me and other draft people like, but like there's negative chance he declares. It's like that's kind of what
It's still very early, and I made the point too. And we can move on to the actual players that people care about, but it's sometimes when people say bad draft, they mean bad top of the draft, which is what you just pointed out. Like the biggest thing, there isn't that top guy or even a top section of guys. But sometimes when that happens, it kind of flattens out and becomes pretty normal. After that, it seems like you don't necessarily buy that either. Like, is there an area of this draft that's like okay? Like, is it like the late lottery? Is that like pretty normal? Like that kind of
Actually,
area?
yeah, I would. Well, just because like there's gonna be guys who follow that shouldn't, as always.
Well, I'm asking because the Atlanta Hawks are probably going to have a pick between, or maybe even 2 picks between like
I
8
tweeted this,
and 20.
I tweeted this morning that like based on all of the mocks and intel, 10 to like 15-ish seems like it's going to be the place to be in this draft.
That might be where the Hawks are.
And as always, there's going to be good. There's going to be good second round values because there always are. Like regardless of the draft, there's always interesting guys who fall. But I think that's going to be more of a reflection of just like me / internet people like viewing players differently than the league does, which I don't think is particularly new or anything different from what we always expect, right? Like that's kind of how it always is.
It pretty much is. Yeah, that makes sense. And like we don't know. One of the things we don't know, in addition to guys declaring or not declaring or whatever injuries and etc., is that the Hawks are either going to have 1 pick or 2 picks, and we don't actually know the answer to that. The Kings are probably going to make the playoffs, but it's not a lock. The Hawks have a decently wide range when you factor in the lottery and their current injury situation and all that stuff. So we don't know where they'll be, but I think it's safe to say, as a projection,
well, I
the
think
Hawks,
generally they're in like the 12 to 15.
Yeah, I was gonna say like I think if you told me to just pick the Hawks pick right now, take lottery luck out of it, like I think it probably somewhere in that 10 to 15 range is going to be where they are. So that's, at least just for people listening to the podcast that don't know the stuff that well, that's the area that we're probably projected most likely to be. I'll ask you this first, as far as we get to, as sort of get into players. Who's your favorite / who's the best college prospect in your mind? Like, is there a clear guy that you like the most, or is there like a tier at the top of, again, this only college guys?
Yeah.
Put Alex Sarr to the side, put Ricochet to the
side.
Like,
I think there's like a top 6 in this draft, and 4 of those guys are not playing college basketball.
That is kind of what I thought you were going to say.
And the 2 that are playing college basketball, who I think are that level, are Isaiah Collier and Rob Dillingham, who are like top tier guys to me.
Yeah, and it's funny because I'll just get in front of this. They're both lead guard types, and that's not really what the Hawks probably want. But hey, maybe in the fantasy world when they trade Trae Young, they'll
I think Dillingham is like more of a combo than a lead, but I literally like pairing Trae.
I was gonna say, but even then,
would be one of the most insane things you could do. I mean, offensively, it would be ridiculous because like Rob is an amazing off-ball player. Like he loves running around and cutting and sprinting off of movement threes, but like. They shouldn't do that. They're not going to have the opportunity to, but they shouldn't. just not a good idea. But yeah, Collier. So my top 2 are Collier and Rob. Undecided on who I like more of those 2, but those are the best college guys to me, and only one of those is going to be in the tournament.
Today's show is brought to you by BetterHelp. And sometimes when we need the opportunity to get something off our chest, big or small, certain things happen to be really starting to get to you if you don't let them off of their chest. And really, it's important to let this stuff out, especially as someone who happens to be unbiased on your life. So today I want to tell you about how to feel about something. And for maybe a few of you in similar spaces, you might happen to understand a little bit of what I'm saying here. And that is, I have a real bit of unease about the next steps in the media landscape right now. Not about the Hawk stuff necessarily, but whether there's actually going to be jobs available in what I do, covering sports and doing sports writing and sports podcasting, etc. And of course, not the most intense or life-altering topic for a lot of different people, but therapy can be different for everybody. And most of us, including me, have much bigger problems than this particular thing involving sports and media, but it's also quite important to get stuff off your chest every once in a while. And if you think about starting therapy at all, give BetterHelp a try today. It's entirely online. It's designed to be flexible and suited to your schedule, and the place to go is betterhelp.com/lockedonnba. And when you do that, it's 10% off your first month with BetterHelp. Once again, it's betterhelp.com/lockedonnba. And one more time, the place to go is BetterHelp. That's betterhelp.com/lockedonnba. Speaking of that, like I kind of broke it down in my notes as like guys who are probably going to be in the tournament and guys who are probably not going to be in the tournament. And barring a USC winning the Pac-12, they're not going to be in the tournament,
which is really funny.
Which is where, and honestly, I would say it's like not impossible. They're playing better recently. This is a college. They're playing better recently. It wouldn't stun me. They have a lot of talent.
Collier missed a ton of games in the middle of the season, plus like early season struggles, but he's looked like the part of a top pick recently.
I was going to say he kind of had this weird.
Like in high school.
Basically. Yeah, he kind of had this weird thing where coming into the year, places even had him like number 1 coming into the year. And then he kind of, as sometimes happens, there was a harsh probably an overcorrection. People kind of dropped him out of the lottery even. And it was like, all right, what's going on here? And now he's kind of creeping back up. I kind of hope he at least has a good game or two in the Pac-12 tournament, just so people like can see him.
Just looking at like Washington's super beatable. They already beat Arizona. Oregon is super beatable. Like they can for sure go on a little run. The Pac-12 stinks. Like
yeah, it's not the best. I mean, Arizona's good, but other than that, it's
Washington State is pretty good. But like
they are. But Collier, just so we lay it out there, what do you like about Collier and Dillingham? Just it doesn't have to be long because they're probably not Hawks guys, but you know.
Yeah, Collier is probably the most like traditional point guard sized initiator. And like I guess like point guard height is because he's like built like a brick shit house. He's like 6'3", 6'4", and like pound for pound the most jacked player you've ever seen. But he is, aside from Nikola Topic, who's an international guy, like the for sure best advantage creator in the class. Incredible strength and burst and power going downhill. He like just totally overwhelms defenders in one of many ways, whether that's blowing right by them or going straight through their chest or posting them up and shooting over them. And though there have been plenty of inconsistencies with Collier throughout the year, the playmaking flashes off of a live dribble are really, really high level. He can really score in the half court and create good looks in the half court pretty consistently. He has like a ridiculous free throw rate. I think it's probably like above 50, which is just nuts for a 6'3" point guard. And then I think defensively, there's a lot of upside as well. He's a very typical like college freshman high usage college freshman defender, but like super strong and quick laterally, has shown good like team D stuff, good steal rate. And the pull up has been better in the past, especially, but that would be my biggest thing is like where the pull up levels out. And there are a lot of issues with like decision making consistency as well, and his handling control. Like he sometimes will lose control of his handle, but all this stuff I think is relatively fixable, and especially for a weak draft, he's probably as good as it gets. If you're a team that like, we need a point guard to like be our initiator, like this is probably your best bet, along with maybe one other guy.
Yeah, that makes sense. And just to say it out loud, like, you know, as far as if you start watching USC, they also have Jalen Johnson's brother Kobe, who's kind of interesting. I wish he could shoot. He doesn't seem.
I really like Kobe Johnson. I'm sure we'll talk about him later.
I do too. I was trying to pair people, trying to pair a team together because people were turning on USC for the first time. Like Bronny's obviously there too, but Kobe Johnson, Isaiah Collier.
He's sick.
Yeah,
Kobe's great.
Yeah, I like Collier. The feel worries me a little, but only a little. I think it's gonna be okay.
He has he's for sure not like a special passing prospect or anything, but like the fact that he's as crazy an advantage creator as he is, like gives him leeway there. Like he doesn't need to be like a Trae Young passer. Like that's because he's gonna like get to the line every single time.
And he's I was gonna say I checked it while you said that because he does have a 50.5% free throw rate, which is just
ridiculous.
That's a lot of free throws for a guard. So the other guy you mentioned is Rob Dillingham, who plays on this loaded Kentucky team. Kentucky's super high upside. I'm sure we'll talk about Reed Sheppard in a second too, because he's a popular guy right now. DJ Widener is there, who's been playing a little bit better recently. Justin Edwards is like back from the dead. Way kind of. I mean, I'm just saying, like way more even than Collier. Edwards was like going like suddenly undrafted, and now he's kind of.
Well, that was kind of how I felt about him pre-draft. So.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like he was in a lot of top tens in
he
August. So like it's he's one of those crazy runs. So Kentucky is maybe not the single most interesting team, but certainly they have 3-4 guys.
Definitely the most fun.
They're bigs too.
Fun college basketball team to watch.
Yeah, they it's offense everywhere. They don't really defend at a high level. And by the way, Dillingham doesn't defend either. So that's part of what it is there. So while we're on Kentucky and Dillingham, we can get to Reed too. But what do you like about those guys? Like, what are you looking for even about the Kentucky guys? Because they are going to be, I think, certainly getting a lot of attention because number one, it's Kentucky, but they're real prospects. Like Reed and Dillingham are real first round high.
Oh yeah, they're both like, at least in this draft, like for sure, like lottery level guys. I'm definitely lower on Reed than consensus. I'd say Rob, I'm probably around the equal.
What even is the consensus now on Reed Sheppard?
It's really all over the place. Like
I won't say where it was because I don't want to give them a lot of attention. I saw number one today on a board.
I saw the same thing, and that's even though that's not a source that I would consider reputable. They're
agreed.
Like, it's not the first or second time I've seen that. Like,
Yeah, and just
but
to
I
say,
also know people like myself who are a lot lower. So I don't really even know like what the consensus is. He's a very unique prospect, which obviously is going to lead to a lot of divisiveness on him.
right. So Reed Sheppard has been, I mean, I think you would agree, awesome college player this year. Like absurd
Crazy
efficiency.
good college player. Yeah.
Yeah, like probably the freshman of the year nationally. I think he's probably going to win it. I think by the end, just because between the narrative and the way he's actually playing. Also has this like, there's this whole storyline that no one cares about on the NBA, but Dillingham and Sheppard are coming off the bench for Kentucky. You know, they're the two best prospects for the team.
Yep.
But Reed Sheppard is 6'2", 6'3", maybe.
I don't think he's 6'3". I don't think Rob is 6'3" either.
Yeah, so 6'2" guard was like he was a 4-star, but not he was not a top 50 prospect in the high school class.
No.
And he shot the ball incredibly well, and the defensive like the steal rate's huge, all that stuff. But you mentioned him being unique. It really is a very unique profile. His dad actually was a former Hawk. Jeff Sheppard played for the Hawks for a little bit in my youth. But what do you like and not like about Reed Sheppard? Because he's going. I can tell you this right now. You know this is what I do. He's going to get a lot of it. He already is getting a lot of attention. But once the CBS machine gets going, if they make a run, he's going to be everywhere.
Oh yeah.
Everywhere.
Oh yeah. And look, everyone loves like a small white guard. Like it's just the way it is. It just is. But like he is a very, very great connective passer. That's probably the main thing with him. That and the shot making. But I think the connective passing is the most bankable thing. Like incredible feel as a transition passer, as like a off-ball secondary decision maker. So good, like extra passes, hit ahead, simple, basic pick and roll reads. Again, I don't think he's like an elite passing prospect. There have been some more like live dribble, high level read flashes in a couple recent games, but I don't think he's an elite passer or anything. And then the shot making obviously has been hilarious this year.
I think it's like 52% from three. Just
52.6%.
That's that, and it's not even small volume. Like it's getting to be, it's a lot of shots for a college guy.
I'm definitely getting higher on his shot because the volume has been steadily increasing, but it's still not that high. Like,
no, it's not.
Just over 8 per 100 is like good, but nothing crazy. And he doesn't take a ton of like his shot diet is quite easy. Is part of my other issue. Like the shot versatility, he doesn't really sprint off of movement, which is, if he did that, I'd be a lot more in. He definitely has trouble like going full speed one direction and stopping and shooting. And he's also not like the craziest handler or pull-up shooter, but catch and shoots, transition, basic like forward momentum pick and roll shooting.
Is he a point guard? Good. Is he a point guard for you? Like, are you evaluating him as a point guard?
I don't think so. I think he's a combo.
Yeah, and I tend to agree with you, and I like him a lot. I think I'm probably higher on him than you, but at the same time, like, it's really hard to sell this profile as a top 5, even in a bad draft.
I don't think I'm really like. I don't feel like I'm that low on him. Like I like him. I have him like just inside my lottery. I think it would be totally fine to take him top 10 in this draft, especially. But like, it's a tough sell for me for your 6'2" sub like mid athletic tools, mid creation guard. Just everything almost everything he creates for himself off the dribble is just difficult. Like it's not easy. And it's hard to make a living off of that in the NBA. NBA athletes are really good, really strong, really fast, really tall. And I think that definitely does like worry me, as opposed to someone like Rob, who has shown like way more ability to like shoot at a like high NBA level or to create his own offense. Not to get into Rob yet, but and then my other kind of disconnect is I think Reed's defensive impact is way overstated by his insane stock numbers,
and they are really impressive. The stock numbers for a guy with his tools, but yeah,
he is like his hand. It's like his hands and like reaction time is probably like maybe his best trait overall. Like they're stupid, absolutely stupid. But I think the narrative that he's like a high field defender, I don't really buy, because he gets back cut more than like most college guards. He's also just like small, struggles to defend ball screens, really struggles against weight and strength, and like his lack of wingspan and the fact that he is already like fairly filled out physically, like especially when you can, I mean, he's like a teenager, right? But even when you like put him next to someone like Rob Dillingham, who is obviously very slender, where Reed is a little stockier, but even that, I don't think he plays above his size, which I've seen some people say that I very strongly disagree with. I think like there's some moments where he's like shot blocking, but most of his blocks are like the Fred VanVleet type blocks where you like swipe it on the way up, or like he's like jumping to block threes, which he is really good at. But
Yeah.
on a play-to-play basis, especially with his athletic tools, like I don't think he's going to be a great defender. I think he could be a good defender, but I see
which
him
is
as
all he has to be.
White comps, which is ridiculous to me because Derek is like the best guard defender in the league, or like Suggs level. But and then to me, like it ultimately just seems like a difference in philosophy. I don't really think the ceiling is very high, and I'm generally not interested in drafting like a complimentary off guard in the top 5. I think there's a good chance he's going to be a good NBA player, and I think his like median outcome is pretty high. But overall, I think the top 5 stuff, like I don't buy the shooting to be as special as people do. The creation is pretty non-existent to me, and the passing, while very good, I don't think is like elite or anything.
Yeah, no, I'm with you.
But it is super weird, and I kind of really don't know. But
it's really interesting because I think objectively, the player that we're talking about, like it's not low to think that guy's a late lottery pick. That's a very reasonable projection,
right,
but it's just going
right.
to be people
That's
going to
pretty.
have
I feel like I have him like 11 right now, like in a tier that goes up.
That's reasonable. That's very
in a tier that goes up to like 6 or 7. I'm like that feels totally like I don't know.
It is.
Maybe I'm a hater, but that feels. That
no,
feels
it's not. That's very reasonable, especially because again, like I'm with you on the upside, or at least the questions on the upside. The shooting might be real, and if it is, like okay, then that's a calling card in itself. But he is limited otherwise. Today's show is brought to you by Nissan. And are you the type of driver that likes to push things a little bit further when you're behind the wheel? Do you ever happen to wonder what adventure could be around the next corner when you're driving? Our friends at Nissan have a lineup of SUVs with the capabilities to take your adventure to the next level. And the 2024 Nissan Rogue is perfect for city drives and great escapes alike. As a classic exclusive Google built-in that is your always updating assistant calling for almost anything. Gone are the days of connecting your phone to your car because Google Assistant, Google Maps, and Google Play Store are built right into the 12.3-inch HD touchscreen infotainment system in the Nissan Rogue. And the 2024 Rogue is the perfect midsize crossover for your next big adventure. And a lot of Nissan is really incredible. It also includes the 2024 Nissan Pathfinder, which seats up to 8 people, it has expansive cargo capacity, and also has advanced available 4x4 capability. It has 284 horsepower and up to 6,000 pounds of towing. When adventure calls, the Nissan Pathfinder is also there to answer it for you. And take the Nissan Rogue, Nissan Pathfinder, or the Nissan Armada and go find your next big adventure with the folks at Nissan. Shop nissanusa.com. One more time, that is nissanusa.com. We mentioned Dillingham briefly. We can talk about him for a second too, because again, probably not a Hawks guy. I have seen him compared to Lou Williams. I kind of like that a little bit.
I don't hate that. It's not the worst. It's not the worst comparison.
By the way, I'm talking about younger Lou Williams, not 35-year-old Lou Williams that was in Atlanta the second time. But what do you make of like? This is too simple, but like, there's kind of a school of thought like if you're not in on Rob, it's like you think he's a combo guard a la Lou Williams, like a 6-man type. Or I've seen people that are like really in on him as like a primary potential star. There's gray area in the middle of those two things, but what do you kind of?
I kind of think he's somewhere in the middle, but also don't think that's a bad thing because I think his ability to scale down is a big benefit. Like I said, unlike Reed, he is a legitimate movement shooter. Will like sprint off threes, different footworks, left and right. And he's had this going back to like. His sample of elite shooting across high school and college is much larger than Reed's. It just is. Like with high volume and shot versatility, he has a much larger sample of elite shooting, and I fully buy him. And the fact that he's an elite tough shot maker, obviously is a great off-ball catch and shoot guy, but can create insane space with his pull-ups. And the real sell with Rob is like he's the best handler in the class, bar none. He's one of the best ball handling prospects in quite a while. The creativity, the decisiveness, the control, it's all ridiculous. And he doesn't have like the best burst, and he is not super big, but I think he really does make up with like his burst is good, not great. And I think he makes up for that with the handle. He's like got insanely good touch. I think like there is definitely a limiting thing with his size, but it's like he gets to the rim a lot, and his finishing numbers are not bad at all. Like for someone his size, like we see way worse than Rob, and his passing is like I think, like I feel like it's a hot take to say that Rob is a better passing prospect than Reed. He's probably not a better passer right now.
He's not right now, but I tend to kind of agree with you, like upside wise.
Live dribble comfortability, his willingness to make high level, difficult off dribble reads in the tight window He has more like creative solutions to help and to problems the defense throw at him, whether those are like long skips or bounce passes or threading the needle. And he like turns the ball over more, yeah, but he's trying to do more stuff. And I think he has like sneaky potential to be a primary playmaker. I don't know if he's like a legit primary initiator creator type because of the athletic limitations, but I think his passing ceiling is astronomically high. It's always been like this. And that was kind of the thing with Rob before, is like we always knew like he was talented, but it's like, is he a serious basketball player? And I think we like 100% without a doubt, we know, yes, he is very serious, is great playing off ball within a system. Defensively, is a big problem.
It's bad. Yeah, it's bad.
But I do think there are enough flashes of him trying, and I think like as the season has gone on, his effort has kind of waned a little bit. But like he does have like nice lateral quickness. He can really get around screens with his agility at times when he needs to. His off-ball effort as like a dig guy is okay sometimes, but yeah, there's just like the overwhelming majority of the defensive sample at this point is just like constant blow-bys, dying on screens.
He's really skinny, like really skinny. Which is like, he's already small too.
I think a lot of the problems Reed has as well, but it's just not like talked about because of Reed's positives that obviously Rob doesn't have and is big for Reed, right? But like Reed has a lot of the same issues as Rob, and in some games is, I think, as egregiously bad on like a per possession basis. Obviously his turnover creation matters, but like, I don't think it's crazy in a world where like Darius Garland has become like a neutral defender and Trae Young has become like just regular bad. Like, I don't think it's I don't think it's impossible that Rob becomes a serviceable defender.
No, I agree with that. I think right now it's not good, but it doesn't mean you have to be that bad.
And I think like, overall, like the creation upside, the high level shooting upside, the passing upside, I think is worth a top 5 pick in this draft. Like he's just as dynamic as they come.
I dig it. I mean, I don't think it's like that you have to have him there, but I definitely see a pathway for him to be.
Yeah, I certainly understand the concern.
One of those guys. Yeah, agreed. And yeah, I mean, those are the two main guys at Kentucky. I guess we should transition. I probably should have gone from Reed Sheppard to Dalton Knecht for the obvious skin color reason. But I'm kind of kidding. But Dalton Knecht is also probably him and Reed Sheppard are like the two most discussed players right now in the mainstream because they're famous college players and also first round picks. And Knecht has the weirdest trajectory imaginable. Like, I'll just say this for people that don't know, he was playing at Northern Colorado a year ago. And he's one of the oldest players in the draft too. He's going to be 23 at draft time.
He's the second oldest. He's the second oldest player in my top. I did it yesterday. I believe he's the second oldest player in my top 60.
So that's
Jalen Bridges of Baylor.
And there's always I already hear people that don't care about. I'm not saying you have to care about age. I'm just referencing it's a data point. And he was literally playing at Northern Colorado, like Division II, a year ago. And somehow, some way, he has better stats in the SEC at Tennessee than he did in Northern Colorado. Like, the jump that he has made is insane, and it feels real. Like, I think he's awesome, especially as a college player. Like, he's undeniably awesome as a college player, undeniably. But what do you make of him as a prospect? Because I've seen him comfortably in the lottery now, and it's
I totally buy him as a prospect. I'll probably have him a little outside of the lottery just because I think age is really important and limiting for his upside. I don't really think
he's really old. Like there's like 21-year-olds, and then like there's 23-year-olds, and he's the 23-year-old.
Right, like he's getting to the point where he's gonna have to think about getting his own insurance. Like,
I mean, when was the last time? Okay. It's more of a thought experiment. Like, when was the last time someone as old as this was a lottery pick?
For comparison, like Duarte is the one.
That's the one.
And I think he's like for sure a better prospect than Duarte was.
I agree. I didn't love Duarte anyway.
Yeah,
but the thing that gets me, and we agree. Just for everybody, we agree on him being a real guy. His pathway is so hard for me to be like, how did this happen? Like, how did he go from that to this?
Like, I believe he was like really short in high school as well, and like was like
late
a
growth spurt. Okay, that makes sense. Because I mean, you just don't see guys. I know there's Duncan Robinson did the D3 to college, but it wasn't one season. Like Duncan took a while.
And Duncan Robinson also, like as a college player, also was not like this.
No, and that's what I'm saying. I'm trying to think of guys who like. I mean, Derek White is another guy who did this too, from same exact thing to Colorado, but like. It's the 1 year thing. We've seen guys go from D2 to D1 and figure it out, but it's doing that in 1 year and then being the best player in the ICC essentially, college wise, is
It's
wild.
wild. But point being, like,
so what do you like about him?
yeah, like defensive and age issues aside, which do matter, and
Yes.
but like, and have me lower. Like, he is a crazy scorer. Like,
Yeah.
he really is just like. There might not be a guy in this class aside from maybe Rob, who's just like more of a bucket. Like, he is like a crazy, like legitimately elite shooter. Like he has like Desmond, like I don't know if he's like a Desmond Bain level shooter, but like he has similar like long-term shooting priors to where it's like fairly confident that he is like a high volume, high like deep pull-up threes off the dribble, versatile off movement threes, great pull-up mid-range shooter as well. And I think some of his like efficiency stats are honestly like could be even higher if he played on like a team with a competent offense outside of him.
Well, that was the thing. I was gonna say his stats are crazy, and they've also gotten better. Like you would think on a guy this profile that maybe he had huge numbers against like non-conference teams.
No,
he's been better in conference
killing
play.
SEC.
Like he's averaging. Look at this now. He's averaging in conference play in the SEC, a real conference with good defenses and stuff like that. 25.5 points a game on 61% true shooting, while being the number one guy and like being game planned for every night. Like like you can't fake that against real competition. But it's wildly impressive.
This is like a very terrible comp that I hate that I make it, but it's like so good. Like he has real Grayson Allen equity in the NBA. Like he's definitely not as good of an athlete as Grayson. I think like he's a pretty good athlete. Like he can definitely get downhill and his vertical pop is nice. And he is really big, but like a guy who like will slot in perfectly as like a complimentary scorer, hitting catch and shoots, attacking closeouts. Like he's so good scoring in the intermediate. He's already like a seasoned foul grifter. His touch is great.
By the way, you need that if you're as limited as he maybe is athletically in some ways. Like you need to be able to get to the line.
And like I definitely don't think he's a bad athlete.
No.
Like I think his athleticism is going to be like completely serviceable. Like he has 24 dunks this year. Like
yeah, he's
he is an athlete. He can get by guys.
And he's 6'6"-ish.
Yeah, he's tall.
Yeah.
He's big. He is like I think he's an all right passer. Like he'll flash the ability to make some pick and roll reads, to throw some basic like lob passers to rolls, but he's not super consistent. And I think also part of it is just like that he carries the fed of that. Like he carries them so hard as a scorer. Like I think there's some of the decision making stuff that I will excuse, and I think in a smaller role he can curtail for sure. But I think there is like as good as you're like he's like as good as complimentary scoring wings get. Like there's always going to be limitations. He's just like straight up a bad defender. Like the upside is not going to be massive because of how old he is, but like he could be a legit like fifth starter on a great team. Like that he has that kind of offensive ceiling, and I think taking him in the lottery would be perfectly reasonable.
All right, that is all with part one of myself and Ben Pfeifer talking all things NBA draft. Stay tuned. Part two should be available in your podcast feed of choice right now. Again, places like Apple and Spotify, YouTube, you should be able to have that podcast in your ears very quickly. And please subscribe to the show. Please also follow the show on Twitter at Locked On Hawks. Follow me there as well at BT Rowland. And I write about the Hawks on a regular basis at patreon.com/BT Rowland. Thanks for listening, everybody. As always, we'll see you with part two next time.